Farmers are increasingly concerned about overreach by federal agencies, EPA, Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Labor, Department of Transportation, all have the potential to add cost or restrict production practices. What have you done or what will you do to ensure oversight and accountability?
Well, I think it's clear, thank you for the question, Kevin. I think it's clear that we need to make sure that we've got accountability in there. But I trust farmers to make sure that they're doing the practices that they should do. And I think with reasonable consideration and the fact that you guys, and some input from the farmers who are actually implementing the programs and the policies, we can find some reasonable regulation that we can all live with. I think you're right, though. There is a real concern about somebody coming in and setting on a regulatory overlay on top of us without any input from the folks who are actually going to be regulated by it. And basically, I guess the long and the short of it is we need a regulation policy that makes sense, that makes common sense for everyone, that has a lot of input from the farmers and the folks who are actually going to have to live by it, and one that doesn't get in the way of letting farmers do their work and do their work on their farm in the way that they've been doing it traditionally.
Colin Peterson.
Well, clearly we have some problems with some of these agencies, especially the EPA. We've had a number of bills that we've passed in the House. I've supported every one of them that I think has come up in terms of these bills that have been a problem, whether it's EPA or energy or labor or whatever department it is. Also, I've met in my capacity as ranking member and before as chairman, I've met with the heads of these agencies like Lisa Jackson and so forth. In the case of the dust issue, for example, I met with her and Chairman Stabenow and I, and she sent us a letter saying the EPA never had any intention of regulating farm dust. There was some underling in one of the states that made a comment that got that all stirred up. So we're on top of this all the time. We pass certain bills. We're going to keep on top of them because the last thing we need is some of this over-regulation, zealousness in some of these agencies. So we'll keep on top of them.
Lee Byberg.
We need to flatten regulation, bring them together, don't have multiple timelines with different agencies that will makes it so difficult for farmers and producers to move ahead. But this is also a wonderful, unique opportunity for America to come together and realize that the largeness of the federal government cannot be sustained. That means that we also have tremendous opportunities as we begin the process of scaling back, eliminating certain agencies like the EPA, of cutting 50%. Don't give them all the power and all the time to figure out how to regulate dust and how to control everything you do in your farm operation. So these issues are challenging. It takes insight, it takes smartness, but let's also look at them as tremendous opportunities to grow the economy and bring America back on the right track. And this is something we owe the next generation. Thank you.
Right, we've reached the time of our forum for final comments. Each of the candidates, we're going to go in order, starting with Colin Peterson. Each will get 2 minutes, and I ask them all to stay on their 2-minute time. Ken Tesi will be keeping time. I'd like to thank our panel today, Kevin Path, President of the Minnesota Farm Bureau Federation, Doug Peterson, President of the Minnesota Farmers Union, Sarah Dorning, past President of the Minnesota Agri-Women, John Magas, President of Minnesota Corn Growers Association, and Bruce Schmoll, President, Minnesota Soybean Growers Association. All right, it's time for our closing comments. 2 minutes exactly for each candidate, and we are going to start on this end and go down the row. We'll start with Congressman Colin Peterson.
Thank you, Todd, and thank the panelists and the audience for being here today. And I think it's been a good discussion. And hopefully we'll give some momentum to encourage some people out in Washington to get this farm bill moving. I'd like to recognize we have Senator Franken with us. He's been patient out there listening. We appreciate you being with us, Senator. Also want to say that Amy Klobuchar was going to be here tomorrow. I can't say enough about the good work she did over in the Senate, working with Senator Stabenow, the relationship they've got, helped me get a good relationship established with Debbie Stabenow. And, my colleagues in the House have been complaining about all the bills they're sending over to the Senate. The Senate never moves on them. Sorry, Al. But, here we got a situation where we've got a bipartisan bill in the Senate, passed 65 to 34. Strong bipartisan vote. We in the House passed a strong bipartisan bill, 35 to 11. And we can't get the leadership in the House to put this bill on the floor. You know, now John Boehner's a good friend of mine, and we've had discussions about this. I think he wants to get this on the floor. He's just having a lot of reluctance by people in his caucus in the Republican study group. And he's concerned about whether we can pass this. And I think those are valid concerns. But Frank Lucas and I have worked together on this. We believe we can bend off the amendments, we can get the votes to pass this bill, and we need to put this thing on the floor. So it's pretty simple what we need to do here in the short term for agriculture, and that is to take this bipartisan consensus, get it moved through the House, get it into conference committee, get it passed, so we've got a farm policy in place for the next 5 years so people know where they're at. That's the most important thing we need to do right now.
Colin Peterson. Next up is Lee Biber.
As you can tell, I speak with a different accent. I actually went to high school in Norway, and that's where I picked up the Minnesota accent. When I came back, this is 30 years ago, I met young people with fire in their eyes, steel in their will, and love in their hearts for freedom. I lived the American dream. I managed small and mid-sized company in bioscience and agriculture. Now I look at where we have been for the last 30 years, and I think we have lost much. I meet a generation that's confused of what America is supposed to be. We talk about a drought in agriculture in many fields as we go south, but I'm also reflecting over the fact that we're also experiencing a drought in the American mind. We have forgotten what it means to be strong, to be independent, to look at obstacles to overcome yourself. So I think we are living at a time when it's our calling, our generation's calling, to lift up America in ways we haven't done in 50 years. And that is to bring free enterprise back, empower the people to produce and innovate, make government accountable. It's spending or borrowing 40% of what it's spending. Our American families are collapsing from within. Almost half our taxpayers don't pay federal income tax anymore. These are serious times, also unique times to restore our nation. We need to be more than farmers. We need to be builders of the land. We need to start community by community, state by state, and lift up America for the next generation so they will fall in love with America as well. Thank you.
That's Lee Biber.